Sullivan Renaissance Volunteer Gardening Training 103, Designing, Digging, and Delegating. There are 5 simple steps to designing a beautiful landscape. And today we're going to review the 5 steps and teach you how you can be a great garden designer. You don't have to design Sissinghurst that has special gardens, white gardens, red gardens, but you do need to look at the structure of those gardens. In viewing this Sissinghurst garden, you'll see that they use hedges as the framework to separate the rooms in the Sissinghurst gardens. Evergreens or conifers are very important in the landscape in having a year-round framework for the garden. In your own garden, you could set that up using evergreens, such as in this garden. And here you'll notice that we have 2 arborvitaes and a weeping cedar on the right-hand side. But we also have hidden behind the 2 upright arborvitaes a blue spruce behind. It's a dwarf Montgomery blue spruce that again will give us evergreen year-round. In this photo, we have the great mop heads of hydrangea in the background. We have some purple leaf foliage of the purple leaf plum trees, and then we have our perennials along the edge or the necklace of the bed, our heucheras or coral bells, and some other shrubs with purple foliage, giving us the framework of the garden. But year-round we'll see the evergreens. Color is important, and once we have the evergreens and the bones of the garden, then we can add the fluff. Then we can add the red, the pink, the white, the lavender, the color that gives us our color scheme. There's lots of colors to choose from, just like crayons in a crayon box. At Mohonk Mountain House, they have a red garden up against the fence to the maze, and here you can view many different types of annuals, perennials, and shrubs and trees that have red foliage to them, and it complements the red roof of the Mohonk Mountain House. You may want to decide to do a monochromatic garden, and here we can see different pinks and magentas and muted reds in this garden photo. They're using plants like, up in front, irisine, and then the ferny foliage of cosmos. And then we have the pink small flowers through the center of the photograph. Those are Nicotiana. Notice how the white cosmos in the front right pops. White is a good color to calm your eyes when you have a lot of bright colors in your landscape. We notice that if we go back to the white birch logs in the Mohonk photo. Or you may decide to do color without flower colors and just using foliage. And here we have the purple foliage of bugbane or Cimicifuga. We have the yellow foliage of those heuchera or coral bells. We have the green and white textured foliage of hosta on the right-hand side. Right in front, bottom, we have fern foliage, and then we have the colored foliage of lamium or dead nettle. Do it with foliage. The second thing to consider in designing are plant heights. And in this photo, I just want to show you all the different heights that you can achieve, from the highest being the digitalis or foxglove that is pink and purple and light blue, and the tallest in this photo, to the delphiniums that are the next highest, to the larkspur that comes below, and then at the base we come down to knee-high plants such as lady's mantle with its citron green color flowers. Another step, the third in the series of simple steps, is interplanting. And here we have some beautiful Asiatic lilies with their trumpet flowers interplanted with white daisies. And then we have other perennial flowers mixed in. But in interplanting, as soon as the lilies are finished, the daisies will continue to flower until the next plants in that group pop up to extend the season. So in extending the season, number 4 is successive bloom time. Here I'm just showing it with bulbs. We could start out very early spring with crocus and then move on to crocus, daffodil, and snowdrops blooming. And then as you extend the spring bloom time of spring blooming bulbs, you can have bloom going all the way into June. The same type of charts exist. You can look to your local Cornell Cooperative Extension or go online to Cornell edu/gardening and find many perennial charts so that you can see exactly what months what flowers will perform and be the winners in your garden. Number 5 is garden accessories. It doesn't have to be as hokey as a garden gnome. You can think of garden hardscaping and gates as being your accessories as well. And here we have a very see-through black ornamental gate and lovely old-fashioned brick hardscaping to welcome you to this garden. But I do want you to take a look then at the landscaping at the front door. To the right, we have an evergreen. It does need to be pruned a bit, and I would spend some time with that. And then on the left-hand side, you can see that they have some ornamental shrubs, one in the corner of the house to give height. And then they have many perennials at the left-hand side of the door that are just waist height or smaller. So it's a landscape that's allowing you to see the windows from the outside, but then as you're looking from inside the house out through those windows, you can view the landscape as well. They're not covered up. The next portion of this presentation is about digging in the garden. So when you're about to dig and plant holes, you do want to make sure that A, you have tested the soil, which we talked about in our 101 training. And if the soil has been tilled and you're just putting single plants in, then you could dig a hole. You want to make sure that the hole is at least 2 times wider, if not 3, than the size of the container that the plant is sitting in, that it will soon come out of and go into the ground. You can see here also that they have prepared the soil very well. Look how beautiful dark black that soil is that she's going to be planting into. When you're first digging in the soil, you want to make sure that you dig at least 8 to 12 inches deep and turn that soil over so that you have a nice bed that's a nice blank slate and ready for any of the plants that you are going to put in. If you can't go down into the soil, then you can plant up. And here we have raised beds that are 12-inch pieces of 2 by 4 by 12s. And in a vegetable garden, this is a great way to be able to dig right away. And you can see that they put these gardens in right on their lawn. We do this with our projects, with our Catskill Edible Garden project. It's a quick way to get a vegetable garden in, and I would deal with this just with vegetable gardens. Otherwise, you must do this if you're putting a perennial garden in or a long-term garden. And then digging, you would want to dig when it's time to propagate. We've talked a little bit about propagating in 101 and 102, and here in 103, I want to show you that sometimes the plant will tell you that it needs a new home. And here that you can see this ornamental grass is dying in the center. You need to dig the entire plant up, separate it, and then replant the sections. So, just wanted to remind you that when you are finished at the end of the day, everything needs to go somewhere. So anything that is taken out of the garden needs to go back into the earth in the form of compost. So make sure that you compost. And here we have a compost bin made of recycled pallets. These are wooden pallets that we find all over the earth. There are tons of them, and we do need to put them back into the waste stream. So I wouldn't use one on the bottom as a floor of the compost pile. I only use 3 pallets in my compost bins. I connect them with plastic coated wire, and if you look closely here, it looks like they use cable ties, which will work just as well. And so they are connected top and bottom in the corners. You put one up, you get a partner to hold the second one, and you connect them together, and then you put the third one together. You can add a number 2, a second section of a back pallet to the back wall and another side section, and then actually make a 3-bin system, adding number 7 and number 8 pallet to this section. So we've talked about designing and digging. Now I will hand the program over to Kara Kowalski, our volunteer coordinator, to talk about delegating.
Thank you, Diana. We're going to talk a little bit about delegating, and delegating happens a lot in the world of Sullivan Renaissance. We have a wide variety of projects in a wide variety of communities, all driven by a variety of volunteers. So in figuring out how to best support these groups and how to most effectively participate in these groups, we need to talk about delegating. And we're going to focus on 2 groups in particular here. The first of which is Swan Lake Renaissance. And Swan Lake Renaissance is a volunteer-driven beautification group in the hamlet of Swan Lake, located in the town of Liberty. It's been in the Sullivan Renaissance program since 2004. Pictured here is one of the volunteers, Nancy, the intern in the beautiful Lakeside Park, perhaps one of the most well-known aspects of Swan Lake Renaissance's work. And like a lot of other groups, Swan Lake needs volunteers. They have been in our program for many years. Volunteers are getting tired. Animals are also getting tired, as you can see. So Swan Lake is a good example of, I think, the way that volunteering should be, in that if you're interested, as you see on this page, if you're interested in helping out on a particular day, for instance, the group meets on Saturdays. If you're interested in helping on another day, that's fine too. If you're interested in working more independently and adopting a specific spot to work on and care for, that's just another way to be involved in this project. So really this emphasizes there's a variety of ways to get involved that can sort of be tailored to what you want your commitment to be and what you'd like it to look like. We had a great community open house recently. This just reiterating the work days for Swan Lake Renaissance. Another group, the Jeffersonville Gems, they have been in our program since 2001. So like Swan Lake, a very long time. Like Swan Lake Renaissance, they're also in our maintenance program this year, which means that they're not doing some big new project, but they're spending a lot of time caring for the projects, for all of the really beautiful existing project elements that they already have. In Jeffersonville, that includes a lot of work on the main street in Jeffersonville. In front of Peck's, they have some beautiful planter boxes along the main street. And similar to Swan Lake and a lot of our other maintenance projects, there's a big need for participation. Here, we're exemplifying one way to try to get greater involvement in Jeffersonville, having a mulch party, turning a task that needs to get done, we need to mulch the gardens, into more of a community event and inviting people to participate. And food never hurts either. So with that, we'll shift into discussion of, if you want to get involved, what are some ways that you can do that? And this is the first year we have this formal volunteer program. It's our Sullivan Renaissance Volunteer Corps. And we're basically encouraging folks to come together and help out with different Renaissance projects around the county. Volunteers attend an information session. We ask that they help with at least 5 events and activities over the course of the summer. That involves being added to an email list. Email or opportunities are emailed, sort of letting volunteers know where they can help, and people help out as they're able to. So far this year, volunteers have helped in a variety of communities around the county, usually with hands-on gardening work. We've also done a road trip to Lumberland. We'll be going to Neversink to get a feel for some of the beautiful spaces around the county that are dependent on volunteer support. The volunteers attend Sullivan Renaissance events. They've been a part of these gardening trainings since Gardening 101, and we'll be recognizing them at our award ceremony because they really do play an instrumental role in our growing volunteer program. And the next information session is Wednesday, July 17th, but we'll be having a handful of information sessions throughout the year. So if you're interested in participating or learning a little bit more, I encourage you to reach out, volunteer@sullivanrenaissance.org, or by calling 295-2405. And that brings us to the end of our Volunteer Gardening Training 103 and our series of gardening trainings. I encourage all of you to remember what you've learned in this class as best you can, to use it out in the community, and to play an active role in your community and making it more beautiful. Again, thank you so much for watching these videos, and congratulations on finishing Gardening 103.